Cześć, w opisie zostawiam linka do pierwszej części wywiadu. Pani, która towarzyszy Joyce, która siedzi obok niej, jest to jej przyjaciółka, psychoterapeutka i razem miały napisać książkę. Także zapraszam na drugą część wywiadu z Joyce, matką Jeffa Dahmera.
What kinds of things was Jeff exposed to? What kinds of things did he see and hear?
Nothing out of the ordinary. Well, what can I do? I can compare it with my own upbringing, and my mother and father fought, and it was kind of a normal thing, and they would get over it. And Lionel and I discovered very early on that we were very different people. I was more emotional and more outgoing than he was, and marriage became really a very unhappy place. And how much that affected the children at the time, I didn't think that it affected them in any really harmful way, because they were never physically abused.
There were very heated arguments. And on occasion that would lead to some physical.
Excuse me, Stone. If you want to stop a minute and think about whether you want to talk about that abuse.
How am I going to know what's going to be on television and what's not going to be?
Well, I mean, I think you need to assume, while only a very small portion of this will be on. I mean, I want you to be comfortable with what you say, because.
Well, one of the things that I don't want to get involved in on this television show is trying to do the same thing to Lionel as he's done to me, and that is to somehow blame him. So
I'm not asking. I really don't want to get to whose fault. No, we're rolling. But I'm just saying, I don't want to get. I am really not concerned with fault and whether it was you or whether it was Lionel. What I'm trying to understand is what was going on between you, for whatever reason. I'm sure both of you brought something to the table on that. That's usually the case in a marriage situation. My question is, what kinds of things? What do you recall about the kinds of things that were happening between you that Jeff may have been exposed to, and to the extent that there is some question about the kind of emotional turmoil that might have caused him?
Stone, I have to tell you, I've thought of that over and over again, and there's nothing about the kind of arguments, the kinds of fights we might have had, the disagreements over how to bring up children, there was nothing unusual about that. And Jeff is not the result of what is going on in every home in America. He's not the result of that.
So you're saying it wasn't a perfect marriage, you're saying, but it was nothing so extraordinary that it could explain why he went on to do what he did.
Absolutely not. Telling you the truth the very best I can, there wasn't anything unusual.
We all think about victims' parents in a case like Jeffrey's, but we don't often think about the parents whose child committed crimes like this. What's it been like for you?
Well, it's been horrendous. I don't know if I have words to explain something that was never seen or forecast or expected. I learned about Jeff in the same way everyone else did. A friend called me and told me it had been on television in another state. And so half an hour later, I turned the television on and saw his picture. And at that point, what do? You can't believe what's happening. And you cry and you grab a friend. And that's what I did. What was most unusual about it was that I didn't know, I hadn't been in contact with Jeff, although I tried. And yet no one had ever let me know that Jeff had been in any kind of trouble at all during the years.
When did the full impact of all of this hit you?
I don't know if it has yet. I don't know if it ever will. I mean, I don't know if I'll ever be able to. How does anyone... The full impact, it's the rest of our lives. I have another son, a younger son, for the rest of his life. He will have to find a way to be strong and deal with this.
Has this followed him?
Yes, it has. But he's doing very well. He's finished an undergraduate degree and is working and very successful and visits his brother. It's a very difficult thing to say. One of the hardest things for me to say is how much I can't believe this happened and how much I love Jeff, when I'm very much aware that it's almost like I don't have a right to mourn or grieve, because there are all these families who will never, ever speak to their children again. It's a very strange set of circumstances. I still have my son Jeff now to talk to, and we've established a wonderful relationship, and I hope I don't hurt all of the people who've lost their children by saying that.
What was he like as a young boy before school?
Wonderful. I thought he was wonderful. He was fun. We did all of the normal things that people do. It's hard to be asked questions that go back 30-some years when you never expected that anything but good would happen in your family.
Were there ever any early signs of trouble with Jeff?
If there had...
Looking back on it today, were there?
No. What would you look for? If I'd seen something that had been a clue of any kind, I'd like to think that I would have done something about it immediately. No, there wasn't anything unusual about Jeff. He was a normal young boy.
Jeff's first grade teacher referred to him as inordinately shy and profoundly unhappy.
He didn't seem inordinately shy to me. He seemed, he didn't like school. He had a very difficult year that year, first grade, moving from where he lived. I was pregnant with his baby brother, so...
Did he seem profoundly unhappy?
No. Well, no. When you say profoundly unhappy, there wasn't any clue that there was anything other than this was a little rather shy child who had to go to school and mingle and be sociable, and that wasn't his thing.
Przetłumaczyłam jeszcze drugi wywiad z Joyce, także również zapraszam teraz na niego.
This sounds strange, but he did not mean to hurt anyone. I still love my son. I've never stopped loving my son. He was a beautiful baby. He was a wonderful child. He was always been loved. Do you remember where you were
when you heard this news about your son?
Well, it wouldn't be very easy to forget. I'd come home about a half an hour early, and one of my friends from Ohio, where the news came on a couple hours earlier, called and had a hard time telling me why they wanted me to watch television. But I found out about it like everyone else. In about a half an hour, he was on television.
What did your friend say? Do you remember the words?
I remember the words, as it was very difficult. She simply said, Jeffrey's in trouble. And I said, what kind? And she said,
Bad trouble.
Bad trouble. Jeff was a victim of a compulsion, an obsession. When I went to visit him, I asked him what it had been like during all of these years. And
what did he say to that?
He said, I was so scared. I was scared every minute, and I tried to stop, and I couldn't. Intellectually, I knew. I don't know how this sounds, but I knew that I'd done a good job as a parent. I knew this had to come from something outside of Jeff. I think there's a lot to be learned, and one of the things that our society does have to be aware of is that we still do have a prejudice. We have a stereotype, and we still do blame mothers.
We do not have an explanation for Jeff's behavior. In the absence of an explanation for anything, we get scared. We're afraid of unknowns. So we go for prefabricated answers, such as the parents and especially the moms. And this has been a ready-made answer. Mother, the monster maker, has been the easy way out of dealing with something we just can't explain.
Something needs to be learned from this. And I think Jeff is intelligent enough that if he gets some help, he might be able to help people. I'm not talking about that Jeff will ever be out of prison again. He won't, no matter what he finds out about himself. But I think he has a right as a human being. He's not a monster. He's a human being. And I think he deserves some help. I experienced on the job having an employer tell me to take Jeff's picture off my desk, that I would no longer be allowed to represent the company in the public, that I'd sort of become the elephant in the living room. Little kind of insidious kinds of things, and no matter how well prepared you might be, they do play on your emotions and how you feel about yourself. There's a murder happening every single day in our society. That means there are mothers and fathers, there are sisters and brothers, there are extended family. Jeff is an unusual situation. And my concern is that as bad as it is for me, it's got to be that bad for other parents. And maybe there's something I can do.
W tym czasie, kiedy te wywiady były przeprowadzone, to właśnie Joyce planowała po pierwsze wydać tą książkę razem z tą swoją przyjaciółką, psychoterapeutką, a po drugie stworzyć jakąś grupę, może właśnie bardziej grupę osób skupiających ofiary, rodzin, sprawców. Żadne z tych planów nie zostały zrealizowane z niewiadomych powodów. Joyce zmarła w 2000 roku na raka piersi, miała 64 lata. Joyce przeszła na pewno jedną próbę odebrania sobie życia, natomiast dziennikarz, który z nią przez wiele lat utrzymywał kontakt, zostawię Wam link do artykułu. On twierdzi, że Joyce wielokrotnie miała takie myśli, miała takie plany. Jeszcze tak a propos brata Jeffa, to on zmienił personalia. Nie chciał w ogóle w mediach się pokazywać, chciał być anonimowy. O tyle wiadomo, że brat Jeffa się ożenił. Na koniec chciałam poprosić o kulturę wypowiedzi, o to, żeby matkę Jeffa nie oceniać. Ja też, każdy ma do tego prawo, ale ja akurat nie jestem zwolenniczką odczytywania mowy ciała, ponieważ można się łatwo pomylić i ocenić kogoś właśnie w raniący sposób, dlatego Ja po prostu chciałam przedstawić odmienny punkt widzenia, to co matka Jeffa miała do powiedzenia. Ja, wiecie co, jeszcze planuję z ojcem Jeffa coś przetłumaczyć, jakieś wywiady. Jest bardzo, bardzo dużo i wywiadów, i fragmentów programów z nim. Myślę, że będzie to wyglądało w ten sposób, że ja niektóre te najciekawsze fragmenty połączę w jeden odcinek, ponieważ no, zdarza się często, że ojciec Jeffa się powtarza z niektórymi rzeczami, natomiast no, jest to też dosyć ciekawe, także mam to również w planach. Pozdrawiam Was bardzo, bardzo serdecznie i mam nadzieję do zobaczenia.